sometimes, yes, thank you. Sometimes we forget that the CFA itself is actually a very structured exam. And for each level of the exams, there are actually things to focus on. It's not like every part of the exam is not important. Actually, all parts, everything from ethics down to derivatives, every part is important. But there are actually things to have at the back of your mind when you are doing each level, either is level 1, level 2, level 3. There's a main objective for each level. And if you can capture, have that picture of that main objective in your mind, it will be very good for candidates who are currently on the program to actually better perform on the program. If you have that picture of what is this whole level 1 all about, the big themes. So that's part of what we want to talk about today. Then for potential candidates, so our objective is in 2 phases for both current candidates and potential candidates, because currently we have 50 participants that have joined us. We're expecting about 300. And within that mix, we have people that have registered for the program, or people that are about to register for the program, and people that are going into the program want to know what to expect, the basic information to expect. So we're providing them, we have to provide them with potential, we have to provide potential candidates with needed information to make informed decisions about the CFA journey. So that's more about the objectives of this program today. I'm going to go on to quickly introduce the very amazing panelists that I've been able to bring together, very good friends of mine that I've been able to bring together for this program today. Starting from Stefan. Stefan is, why this panelist or this lineup of speaker is dynamic is that you have people that have been in the industry for almost 10 years, that passed their CFA in, I think Stefan completed the CFA in 2013, which is almost like 9-10 years ago now. So you have people that also recently did the CFA. You have people that actually got chartered maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. So you have a balanced mix. You have people that will tell you about the career part of the CFA and the role and the impact the CFA has had on them and their exam, so that if you are looking at, is the CFA the right thing for you, you can make that decision, because you have people that have passed and have been using the CFA for the past 10 years that can tell you the benefit from it. You also have people that recently passed, someone like me that recently completed the exam. I used to tell people that my experience is very unique. I wrote both the paper exam, I also wrote the CBT exam. So I wrote my final exam. So I have that perfect picture of how the paper exam looked like. And when CFA decided to cancel the paper exam this year, and this year going forward the CBT, they've introduced the CBT. I also have experience of the CBT. So within this same mix, you have people that also did the CBT that can actually give you that exposure. So you have that balanced mix. And that's why we have a very great speakers lineup. So you can see all their profile. Some of them have worked with global financial institutions. Many of them, at least 60% of them they've completed their CFA over the last 5 years or more than 5 years ago. So they are practitioners currently in the industry, and that's more about them. And the diversity of this is, and why I intentionally put their what they studied, more especially in the first degree, is so that some of us can actually get encouraged. So some people say, oh, I didn't study finance. It doesn't make sense, the CFA for me. Well, I didn't study finance. I studied applied geophysics. My course is closer to being an engineering course than being a finance course. So you notice in the mix, you have people that study computer science, someone like Sheyi. You have people like Bolaji that studied electrical engineering and CFA charter holder now. You ask yourself, what is he doing here? You have people that study core finance, like accounting, or people that studied economics, people that study actuarial science. So you have a perfect mix of people from different career backgrounds coming and also showing you that the CFA is not meant for, maybe I studied economics, that means automatically that the CFA is my path, or I studied medical science. I was having a conversation with a friend of recent. I said, you'll be surprised all these global financial institutions, the type of people they take. Diverse people from diverse backgrounds. They employ doctors, there's doctors that are charter holders, there are people that are lawyers that are charter holders. So their expertise are needed for different sectors. So that's the lineup of our speakers for today. And we're going to quickly run through the outline of how this program will go so that we can easily run through everything. Someone is raising their hands. I would please, while I'm still running through the introduction, I would please plead with you that if you have any question, the chat box is opened. I'm not the only one coordinating this program. We also have a host. We have several hosts that can see your question. Please drop your question in the chat box and I will pick it up from there and address it. So this is basically the outline of what we are going to do today. 6 main things we want to face. And when we are done with it, we are done with the program. We are looking at not taking longer than usual. 1 hour, 30 minutes at most, we should be done with this program. We're going to start with an overview of the CFA program entirely because we understand that I told you at the beginning that part of the objective is to actually give potential candidates the right information. Even people that are on the program, some people are on the program, they don't even have the big picture of what the CFA looks like. So we're going to run through an overview. We're going to look at the financial implications. The CFA are there's both financial, which is monetary cost, and the opportunity cost, because from my experience, the CFA requires much more than the financial cost. So there are other opportunity costs, things you have to let go just because you're on the CFA program. Our panelists might have to talk about it, but basically we give an overview of the financial implications. We look at the review of the exam structure, how is the exam structured. I will talk about how it was before now and how it is going forward. Then we look at career path for CFA candidates and charter holders. Then we look at preparing for each level. This is where we're going to really pay attention more, looking at each of the level, we dissect them and ask ourselves, this is the weighting of level 1, this is the weighting of level 2, this is weighting of level 3. What do you think is the big picture? And what do you think people should actually focus on? And then we round it up by taking any question and answer. Mike quickly puts that if you have any question by now, you can drop it. If you have any question by now, you can drop it in the chat box and we'll take it. I'm hoping that in between the sections, we might have to run some polls to get feedback from people. So that will be it. So I'm going to quickly check the chat to see if there is any question that we need to address quickly before we fully start the program. Should I tap audio? Is this being recorded? Wow. Okay. Okay, so I think we don't have any question that need us any question that needs to be addressed now. So I'm going to start with Stefan before I give an overview of the CFA program. Recently, I think after was it after June or July, there was an article that was published in, I think it was in Washington Post. Is that the Washington Post or New York Times, of a former charter holder that said the CFA is a complete waste of time. He was not even a charter holder. I think he once wrote the CFA. I think he wrote level 1, and then the publication went viral. I read it it was on Reddit, several platforms. And so I want to ask the first question before I give an overview of the program. In your view, you got your charter holder like almost 9 years ago. Is the CFA a complete waste of time? Is it utterly irrelevant in the investment management industry? Stefan.
Hi, Caleb. Thank you so much for organizing this event. So for me, it was not a waste of time, but it was definitely a waste of my summer because, you know, in London, you have about 2 weeks of summer every year. And for the 3 years I did it, it was every time the 2 weeks before the exam. So for sure, I did lose 3 summers of sunshine, but no, it's not. I don't think it could ever be a waste of time because, you know, even if worst case you don't succeed the exam, you know, you will still learn sort of useful things. I think it depends also your background. For example, if you do a master in finance, you know, you will find the CFA program very easy actually because it's something that you will have studied in the university. But, you know, if you don't have a background in finance, you will learn a lot of very, very useful things for the job. So I think for me, I think it's really, really an amazing sort of platform for people who don't have a finance background. You know, if you have, let's say, an engineering background or a liberal arts background and you want to go into finance, I think this is maybe one of the best sort of ways to bridge into finance. And for those who do have it, I think, you know, anyway, now it's more like a box ticking exercise. I think for a lot of jobs, they require the CFA program. like for me, it was actually in my contract. I had to do it in the first 2 years. If I didn't do it, they would fire me. So it was very strict. So it was, you have to do it. But I think, no, it's not a waste of time. It's a big investment of time. That's something that, you have to realize, because there's no you cannot use any tricks to go around it. You can be as smart as you want. You always have to sort of spend a lot of hours to go through all of the material. But no, I think it's a very interesting opportunity for a lot of people. So I mean, I would definitely recommend it.
All right, thank you. I'll go to Paula. Paula, do you feel like the CFA is not a waste of time in terms of how practicable are some of, because I'm from Nigeria, and sometimes part of what we complain about in Nigeria is that you read a lot of stuff in school, and you find out that when reality comes, you are in the workplace. It's like there's this complaint about the fact that there's a huge gap between graduates who have crammed books, read textbook and everything, then application now becomes an issue. Do you feel like it's almost the same thing? Because this CFA, each level is like 3,000 pages of textbook. You're talking of, by the time you get your charter holder, you already read almost 10,000 pages. You could have even written a dissertation for PhD 10. Is this still relevant in the workplace?
I mean, absolutely. Just to, lend my voice to what Stefan said, it is not a waste of time at all. Personally, I believe time is life. I mean, when you equate my, time, when we live every day, that we live out our time. So time is life. And what better way to dedicate your life to a passion that you want to pursue? I mean, you might as well just invest the time in pursuing that career. Now, what CFA program does is it gives you a wide spectrum, knowledge around everything you need to know around finance and investment. What that does for you is it kind of owns in on finance and investment. Unlike university, where you have to do use of English, you have to do philosophy, you have to do political science. I mean, I studied actuarial science. I was made to do political science. I don't know what that has to do with actuarial science, but I'm now a professional. I'm dedicating my life to investment management. I might as well just invest my life, which is my time, in building skills, which CFA would, help me with. And I mean, absolutely not a waste of time. Immediately, I finished my CFA. I didn't even have to apply for a job. I was contacted on LinkedIn. That's what CFA does. It's not about, it puts you in a different pack, so it's really not a waste of time at all. I can tell you for free.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense, because both of them have shared the fact that I can attest to it, because why I asked them is some of these questions that we're asking them are not chorus questions or things that we've practiced. We just want them to be as practical as possible. I was doing an interview of recent, and I was telling someone that I am so sure that if I didn't write the CFA and I didn't actually do level 3 exams, that interview, there was no way I would have passed it. And the person was like, why? And everything. I said, because one good thing about the CFA is that candidate body of knowledge that you see, the textbook, is not actually made by, let's say, people that are in the school alone, that PhD holders. It's a mixture of both industry practitioners and people that are in the academic line that actually bring up those books. So those textbooks are actually tailored not to sound so theoretical that they are devoid of practicality or they're devoid of reality. I'll quickly go into an overview of the CFA program for the benefit of people that are just trying to intimate themselves with the program. The CFA, as you know, it's called the Chartered Financial Analyst. That's the name of the full meaning of the CFA. The program started in the first exam. We still get to it. It was written in 1963. So the exam body has actually been around for almost 60 years now, or almost 70 years. I think the first set of exam was written for about 203 candidates. Now, today, the CFA has evolved to a society that has about 160 CFA societies around the globe. So you go around the globe today, you have about 160 CFA societies. And it's not like the different CFA society, for instance, let's say CFA society in Nigeria will conduct the exam, no. Or CFA society UK will conduct the exam, no. The CFA exam is still centrally coordinated. Either you're in China or you're in Australia, it doesn't matter. It's still coordinated by the CFA Institute, which is located in Virginia in the US. They are the ones that coordinate the exams, and they are the ones that will eventually, when you get that big placard called the charter, they are the ones that will send it down to you. So you have about 160 CFA societies around the world. Why you have those societies? So that members in different parts of the world can have places they can relate with. Someone like Stefan is in CFA Society Nigeria, but he's part of the global body, but he can always relate to the CFA Society in Nigeria. In UK, someone like Paula can relate with CFA Society in Nigeria and things like that. That's the essence of the different society bodies. Who should register for the CFA? And I think I'm going to quickly ask Ebitari at this point. You studied accounting. Why not just write ACCA or ICANN and just be done? Why the CFA? Or do you think it's meant for finance guys alone?
Great question. So I started the CFA exams because I wanted to break into the industry. So I had already done the ICANN and I was not keen on practicing accounting. So where my heart lied was in the investment industry. So taking the CFA was like a right step in that direction, and passing the level 1 exam helped me to gain my first job in investment banking. So like it showed my employer like my commitment to the industry, and yeah, so it subsequently now helped me to show commitment to that industry and to like give me the skills that were needed in like my subsequent roles. So yeah, because of my commitment to the investment industry, that was just why I wanted to like take on the CFA. And because of the subsequent roles that I now took on, like the CFA now gave me like the knowledge to be able to like take on those roles, understand the markets, and have like a framework for tackling like various new problems and like creativity just in the workplace. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I would quickly like to ask Bolaji, because Bolaji studied electrical electronics engineering. He finished in the top, you can call it the top rank part of electrical electronics engineering, and somehow the road has led him to CFA. He's now a fixed income trader with a tier 1 Nigerian bank. So Bolaji, how influential was the CFA in directing your career path from the electrical electronics engineering, being an electrical electronics engineer, to being a finance guy now, or what we call a fixed income trader? Can you hear me, Bolaji? Okay. All right. I thought Bolaji was online. Find it. Okay. So maybe if you join us again. Okay, I can just keep in something here. Well, I studied applied geophysics, and unlike maybe someone like Stefan that studied economics, CFA was not the ideal path for me. I studied applied geophysics, but the most important thing for me coming into the CFA program was my love for numbers. So my love for, some people say I'm analytical. It doesn't matter. Do you have a bachelor's degree? That's one of the basic criteria you need to actually register for the program. It's either you have a bachelor's degree or you're about to complete your bachelor's degree. So it doesn't matter where you're coming from. Applied geophysics, computer scientist, you're an engineer, whatever it is, whatever it may be, you can register for the CFA, provided you're interested in the financial industry. And we still see the career paths. So these are the basic career paths you will see. This is the broad career path you see the CFA charter holders: portfolio management, research, consulting, risk analysis, investment strategy. And there's tendency for you to think that it's limited. This consulting alone, it's not limited to just finance. Okay, you have people in Boston, BCG, in McKinsey and the likes. Those are not just consulting for finance firms. They are consulting for international firms. They are consulting for Apple. They are consulting for Microsoft, or what you may have, even federal government, state government, they are consulting for them. And there are CFA charter holders in such fields too. So it can lead you to any path. It's not restricted to the field of finance alone. Then I want to intimate us the fact that the biggest change you see in this year is the fact that CFA has moved from a paper-based exam to a CBT era, and this paper-based exam is done. There is no longer paper-based exam. And because of that, the format of the questions have changed. We'll still get to that soon. Financing, which is where I'm going to quickly ask our speakers, on an average, did you, let me ask Paula first. Paula, how were you able to to finance your CFA program?
So I'll go back to, just to take it on from where you started. Your bachelor's could be from anything. I think the most important, like you said, just to stress, is your passion to excel in the finance industry, right? So you want to transition from whatever you studied into the finance and investment industry. That would get you far. Why? I mean, in terms of financing, like I said, it's something that I'm passionate about. So it's like my life. So it was like my savings that I deployed into it. I mean, you need to make, it's a conscious decision to say, this is the career path I want to follow. And you need to chase it with everything, your time, your resources. Stefan said he lost summer. In fact, I lost friends, relationships, So it's something that you need to be like deliberate about, because the gains that you get, after your charter is much more, you can't quantify it. So I think for me, it was more in terms of savings, but there are a lot of scholarships that you have access to as a candidate. CFA Institute has scholarships for, candidates that do not have the financial means. They have scholarships for women. They have scholarships for people that work with regulators. They have scholarships for people that work with media firms. Scholarships are out there. So if you don't have the means, you can take advantage of these scholarships and prove that, you indeed do not have the means and can take advantage of that.
Thank you for that, Paula. That's very important. And why she said that is, people don't know that. I'll still show us a slide. There's a slide that we're still going to show the breakdown of the likely cost. Is an estimated cost. It varies for people, and we're still going to get there. But this is just starting. Financing could be a burden sometimes because you are paying in US dollars. And part of the information people need to know, more especially candidates from Nigeria, is that there's a window you can actually pay from. For instance, I know in Nigeria, there's like 2 different windows. There's the normal exchange rate window, and there's a window in which you call it black market, which is the parallel market. Within the Nigerian normal exchange rate window in the banks, you can actually do from A, which is a way you can use the CBN rate to actually pay instead of going and source dollar on the parallel market. That's for candidates or people that are joining us from Nigeria. Those are options that helps you with your payment. I'm going to quickly go to failing now. And why I had to talk about this is because we have diverse, as I said, we have 2 sets of people, 2 categories of people currently on this program. We have people that have passed this, people that are currently on the program, and people that have people that are trying to get on the program. And let me quickly share a story here, which I might not be public knowledge. I wrote the CFA level 1, passed at first attempt, wrote the CFA level 2, passed at first attempt, then level 3 came, COVID and everything came, and I, with no excuse, I failed level 3 at first try. I was like, really? Because I was planning that I would be, there's an elite group in CFA, and some of my speakers here were very fortunate to be part of that elite group. They did level 1 at first attempt, passed, immediately level 2 passed, level 3 passed, and they just cleared it like that. I think there's a statistic that shows that it's about 10% of people that start the CFA that passes at first attempt. I was like, and I like when you say something is impossible, I'll try to attempt it. So but I failed on the first try of my level 3, and it was painful. And sometimes, having passed the exam now, you look at yourself and it doesn't look like you have failed before, and people start looking at it as if you're a magician. Actually, it's not like that. The road is not always smooth. If people tell you their stories, you know that the road is not always smooth. For some people, it looks smooth. It's because of the adjustment they have to make. So I'm going to quickly ask Bolaji. Bolaji, can you hear me now? Hello, Bolaji, can you hear me? I have made you co-host. I think you should be able to speak now. All right. Okay, so Bolaji, I'm going to ask Stefan, how do you think is the best way for people to deal with failure? Especially for people that have done, I know of people that have written a particular level 4 times. Level 2, more especially, you have written it 4 times and I feel like quitting. What do you think is the best way to deal with failure, more especially when you get your result and you are so down, more especially looking at this year that we had, like, record number of very high failure rate. What do you think? How do you think people should deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, first, I think this is what makes the CFA so valuable is because people know it's demanding, people know you have to sacrifice things, and people know it's very hard to succeed. So I think, first, if it was super easy, then, everyone would do it easily, and then the CFA would not be worth that much. And I think, I think you have to, in a way, if you want to have these valuable 3 letters, and that, as Paula said, that people will actually look for you for a job, then I think, you have to literally do whatever it takes. If that's truly what you want, it's, you have to go through it 100%. Dealing with failure, I think it's like everything in life, is see it, not to be discouraged, and always having the eyes on the results, and doing it over and again until you succeed. I know some people, well, actually a friend of mine, for example, that needed to do 12 times his driving license, but I think in the end, he got it. And I think it's the same for the CFA. I think as long as you don't give up and you think about the end goal, I think, it's failure shouldn't discourage you. But that's like everything in life, right? If it's something that is very difficult and challenging, well, you have bigger rewards as well. So I think it's worth going through all of the effort. And I would say, no, the CFA is not. Also, I would say, if you fail, it doesn't say anything about your intelligence. This is not a test that is made to test your IQ or to test anything. And you can be the most successful person even if you fail 10 times the CFA. The CFA is more about learning techniques. It's about, finding tricks, or not really tricks, but just basically spending the time and going over and over and over the material and over the material. So if you fail, it doesn't say anything about you. It just says that basically you need to go at it, go to the material again. It's more like a marathon than a sprint, the CFA. So I would see it like as a marathon for real, and you have to prepare and never give up.
Sorry, I don't know if I can jump in here.
Well, I was coming to you.
Because I failed my level 3, just like Caleb. I wrote level 1 and 2 on one time, December, June, and then level 3. My ego was hurt. I finished the first class natural science. I really, like, failure to me was strange. My ego was hurt, I can tell you for sure. But I think that what I would advise is, my approach to that failure was, I approached the second exam as if I had not written the first. Now, it's hard for you to fail and just, try to forget that everything, is okay. But like Stefan said, you need to put your focus on the goal, the end, C, F, and A. That's the end, right?
So 3 letters.
So I'm like, approach the next exam not as if you have read this before, so I'm just going to focus on the areas I failed. No, I'm going to approach it as if I am starting from ground zero. Now, what that does for you is it reinforces the areas that you already know, and then it helps you to focus on those areas that you seemingly thought you knew before, but you didn't know. And then, you get a hang of it. So it's, that I just really wanted to add that. I mean, it's not easy, it's tough when you fail, but you know what, like Stefan, the example, if you really want to drive that Rolls Royce and all of that, you keep, writing the drive, taking the driver's lessons until you have your, license and you can drive it. So I think that's really my contribution to that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, I want to ask, Bolaji, are you using a name called Oluwabumi? I want to know, Oluwabukumi, if you are using that. We're having a challenge getting one of our panel, our speakers on. One thing I learned about failing level 3 is that sometimes failure in it is just a little setback, and sometimes when you are failing, no amount of consolation can actually help you. You have to have that resolution within you. I remember when mine happened, I was able to call Paula and talk to her, and she was able to relate with me because she had failed the same level, and she could actually encourage me. Now, it doesn't have to be level 3 for you. It doesn't have to be level 2. It can be level 2, it can be level 1. But one thing is sure in failing is that you know it better if you look at it from that perspective. And I'm not deceiving you. Why I'm saying that is when I first wrote the exam and I failed, it was not because I didn't pass. Sorry, it was not because I didn't know the content. It was basically because I didn't manage my time properly. So failing the level 3, I knew where I got it wrong. So what failure does to you sometimes is it helps you reassess. And part of why I knew that time management was my problem going into level 3 was that I now prepared for, because I saw my result February, and I actually registered immediately for May, which meant I had just 60 or 65 days, which ideally is crazy to people. Why would you fail then within the next 70 days you want to write the same exam? It's less than 2 months. You actually use almost, because of COVID, I had almost a year to prepare for level 3, which I didn't pass. So after using a whole year to prepare and you didn't pass, who told you that you are going to pass now in the next 2 months? It doesn't make any sense. Why not chill and write in 2023 or something like that? But first thing you should actually do is when you fail, it doesn't mean that the program is not for you, because sometimes I get that idea that people, most times when they fail, they will tell them, I don't think this CFA is for me. I don't think so. I feel like sometimes when you fail, it gives you the ability to reassess where you are coming from, what you actually did wrong. Because I knew it right from the exam. I wrote the exam. I didn't write this, the first attempt, I didn't write it in Nigeria. And I remembered in the hall that day, the man was saying 30 minutes to go, and I knew that where I was, there was no way I needed magic to complete the exam that day. And it was plainly time management. So your own could be, you will reassess, you will say, you didn't understand this part. But it doesn't automatically mean that the CFA is not for you. Quickly, I want
to... Sorry, Caleb.
Yeah.
Sorry. I lecture corporate issuers. I think that's the new name now, but it used to be corporate finance. And having spoken to a few candidates, I know that a lot of them complain that the CBD has this way that it just pops up questions from different areas. You know what the paper-based do to you is, you know where the ethics questions are, you know where the derivatives questions are, you know where the fixed income questions are. So you can always start with your strengths. Now the CBD, what they've complained is, ethics question can just pop up. The next question might just be derivatives, and the next question might just be, corporate issues. And that is a bit unsettling for them. So I don't know if you can ask some of the speakers to sort of like address how, so that I don't hug the mic, but I think that's something we might need to address in this program as well, because a lot of candidates feel like that's unsettling, that's a bit, it's scattered, especially when you read and you partition your brain, like, but this is corporate issues, and then you just are seeing different things pop up. How do the candidates manage that? Thank you.
Okay, I think at this point, I don't understand because I wrote the CBT. Bitari, did you write the CBT?
Yes, I did. So it was more structured. So you see ethics in maybe 6 questions from ethics in one section. You move on to the next one. You see maybe 10 fixed income. Yeah, like that. So there was
okay.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that was the feedback I got from the level 1 candidates. But yeah, I guess.
Maybe that's unique for level 1. I won't know. Maybe it's unique for level 1. I won't know. But what I know is that because once the CBT I wrote, it was still structured. It was actually still structured. But I think one of the things that contributed to the high failure rate this year was the transition from, because there was a lot of speculation that CFA was intentionally managing the pass rates. They didn't want people to pass and all those. And sincerely, I don't think that is it. And you can say maybe I'm probably biased. I'm not speaking for the CFA. The CFA didn't pay me and everything. But I found out that when I was registered for the exam, my set was the first set that was going to do, the May 2021 set was the first set that was going to do the CBT for level 3. Level 3 has always been paper-based. And if you notice the structure of level 3 is usually between, it's usually between essay and multiple choice questions. And what I noticed was that the people that went for day 1, day 2, they had a lot of technical issues and things like that. Maybe because I didn't have the courage to go and face it at that time. I said, I'm not, because I still knew that I felt like they were in better tests there. I said, I'm not going to be used for better tests. So I registered for the last day of the exam. And because I had to register late also, I had to pick the last day. That was the date that was available. But in short, the summary is that the CFA does not actually mean that. Failing the CFA is actually a good thing in a way, because you reassess what your priorities are. Sometimes it tests the fact that, are you really resolved on getting these 3 shining letters? Ebita, I just want to ask you, what other alternatives do you think are out there to the CFA? I know of MBA, some people will say FRM, CIMA. How do you think CFA stand out compared to those alternatives? And then I'll come to you, Stefan, because I also know that you did the MSc at Imperial. So you can share how the CFA varies from the alternatives.
So it's not either or, but I think it just depends on what your career plans are. So if you are long-term, like investment management, sure, the CFA is good enough, or like is good for that. But then if you are good, maybe like you want to transition to another field, maybe investment banking from investment management, or you want to be around there, sure, you can complement that with an MBA. But for in terms of, and then maybe if you want to specialize in alternative investments, then you can look at, is it called Kaya now? So, and risk management, FRM. So just depending on where you want to like build a niche for yourself. So that would really help in determining, okay, like what do you need to complement your CFA? But the CFA is very broad. Like it won't give you like one maybe focus area, because like the CFA can apply to research analysts, it can apply to portfolio managers, it can apply to like alternative investments. But if you really want to like maybe hone in on one topic area, there are several options available to you.
Yeah, before I go to Stefan, I just want to put some caveat to it that having the CFA sometimes give you an advantage. The CFA kind of have communication with other certification. For instance, if you are a CFA charter today, I know the CIA, that's the Chartered Alternative Investment Analyst, which is people that are into the alternative investment like commodities, real asset, and real estate and things like that are focused on. The CIA is a 2-level exam. If you have the CFA charter today, you would not need to write level 1 of CIA. So automatically, when you're a CFA charter, you only write level 2 of CAIE, and you can also say you're already, if you pass that exam, you also get the CAIE certification. So there is a level of communication between some of these certifications. I know they complement each other sometimes. But Stefan, I would like you to comment in the area of our MSc MBA alternative CFA in Ireland.
Yeah, so first, I think it also depends, you have 2 things. You have the things about your own sort of knowledge, and then I think you have all of the alternative, but I still think like CFA is the best one so for example, when I was portfolio manager, the clients, they only care about CFA, to be very honest. I could have done like other ones, but within investment management, I think the CFA is really better perceived by clients. So I think for just signaling with clients, I think this is important to do the CFA. I think to learn, you have all of the other alternatives that are good, but I still think, at least in London, the CFA is still sort of the top alternative, I would say. But then I would say one that you didn't add to your list, and this is the CQF, and I've added the list in the chat, because for those of you that want to join a sort of a quantitative finance role, as a quant, or even later on as a quant trader or in portfolio management, but within a quantitative team, I think the CQF is a very, very good alternative. It's even more demanding. It's super, super difficult. I haven't done it. Yes, I think so. But I think generally for the CQF, you can hope to find a company that pays it for you. Generally, they will be okay to sort of invest, because the thing with the CQF is it's more like a master, really, because you have to learn about really complicated topics. And so I think this is also an alternative that I would put out there, the CQF.
All right. Thank you for that. Yeah, the CQF is quite good. I know about that one. I know that it's also very demanding. It's if you think CFA is hard, try the CQF. You would see. I think it's roughly, if to complete the 2 levels, is about almost £13,000 to complete the 2 levels of the CQF, which is almost like $18,000, $19,000. I'm pretty sure you get several. Yeah, it's quite expensive. So go ahead, please.
Sorry, I just wanted to add that, like Stefan said, the CFA it makes you dynamic, right? So I started from trading within the portfolio management team, went to secondary portfolio manager, and then I was asked to head the risk management team. Now, what that does is, they were able, this problem then was investment risk review, right? And they needed someone with an investment background that could do the risk management. So again, CFA makes you dynamic, you know, exposes you to a bit more options. But like, you know, like you said over and over again, if you want to hone in on a particular skill, risk management, FRM, you know, CQF, quantitative analysis and all that. So yeah, thanks.
All right, thank you for that. We're going to get to some core part of discussing certain levels soon. I know some people are waiting for that part, but we just have to quickly run through this overview and be done with it. Abolaji, are you with us now? I think you are co-host now and you can hear us.
Hello, yes, Bolaji? Caleb, I can hear you now.
All right, thank you for that. Yes, we have our final speaker on board, so that's great. Bolaji, please, can you quickly tell us the basic qualifications for you to get your charter? Because some people are like, oh, people used to have that issue. People like, I've completed my CFA, all my exams and everything. How do I go about the charter? Maybe, you know, CFA sent you your exam result, and you know, you just think that they will just they've sent your exam, that they will just deposit your charter into your inbox like that, or you just get your charter certificate. What's the process you have to go through? Then the process you have to go through, the things you need to actually be able to write the exams, or the enrollment requirements, both the enrollment to start the program and the enrollment for your charter holder.
Okay, thank you. Well, basically, what you need to qualify to write the exam is just for you to have your degree. That's basically it. So once you have that, anybody, irrespective of what you have your degree in, it could be finance-based or not finance-related, just like someone like me. So with that, you are qualified to write the exam. So that's why you see people with varying and diverse backgrounds being eligible to write the exam. And in terms of becoming a charter holder, first and foremost, definitely you need to pass all 3 levels. So after you are done with all 3 levels, then you need to have the required work experience. So this is where it's now sort of becomes dicey, because you need to have the required experience that is related to having made investment decision. So you need to have been in a role where you were directly involved in making investment decisions for at least, I think, 4 years or so then when I qualified. So with that and having passed the 3 exams, you can now get 2 referees, who are already charter holders, you know, to reference you, and you submit that application to the institute, and with that, you get your charter. Yeah. At least that was the process I went through then. I don't know if anything has changed now.
I think it's still the same. Just to emphasize, if you are getting non-charter holders, either your supervisors at work to be your referees or things like that, I think it's still mandatory to get at least 1 CFA charter holder. So you can get 1 CFA charter holder that is already chartered, then maybe non-CFA charter holder. But if you are getting, there must actually be, I think, 1 CFA charter holder as part of your referees to get that. And there is one thing that people should note, because we have people that are joining this program from different parts of the world. You also need to ensure that your country is a participating country. There are some countries that are actually non-participating. The CFA is present in like 170 countries around the world, but there are some exams that are, because the US country is a US-based organization that has a global presence. There are some countries that they cannot do business with or do business in based on OFAC policy. So just go to CFA website. Don't forget the fact that you can't write the exam without an international passport. Wherever you're applying, you can't use your local or your regional or your national passport. It has to be an international travel passport for you to complete it. And also there's the professional conduct criteria. In the area of professional conduct criteria, I just need to quickly emphasize that it doesn't apply to people that are about to be chartered alone. So your exam, level 1, level 2, they are monitoring your conduct. So if you had issues in level 1 or level 2 with the body, with the institute, or they've reported you at some point, because there are platforms where people can report you for non-ethical practices, by the time you want to apply for your charter, it can actually be a stumbling block. So please note out those. So we quickly run to the financial implications of the CFA. And I'd like to start from Ebitari. From your experience, maybe you can give us in Nigerian millions. I would quickly do the US dollars conversion. How much did you think the CFA cost you financially? Because I know there are non-monetary costs, because Paula was talking about letting go of friends and everything. Stefan missed several summers. Yeah, those are even still opportunities opportunity cost that you can't even place value on. But financially, how much did you think you spent on the CFA?
So in terms of direct costs, so I didn't pay for level 2 because I had the access scholarship at the time.
Good.
So that was like a major benefit, or like it helped like go a long way. But in terms of other costs, because I use third-party materials as well, so I would spend on average $300 per level on third-party materials. So that really helped go a long way. So maybe if I had to pay for everything, it would be like $1,300. Yeah. Then there was also maybe opportunity costs, like it's not direct, but because you're trying to like work on a program, like you won't want to leave firms so often because you won't get like leave days in a new place. So there's also that as well. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is a quick overview of the cost. Actually, if you're interested, the CFA can cost you as little as $3,000. I'm assuming in the case you don't even have to rewrite, and it can cost you as much as $10,000 from the initial enrollment fee that you have to pay coming onto the program. You pay at once, and then after that, you don't have to pay again. You just pay for the exam fee. So before you write level 1, you pay for $50. Then subsequently, if you can meet the early registration, which is not always possible, you can always, so this, you can categorize your expenses into 3 parts: the exams, the non-direct costs like prep providers, calculators. You can't write the CFA without the CFA calculator. It's not possible. Your scientific calculation will not work for you. So you need all these things. So if I'm looking at you for the exam fee, if you're paying just, you are meeting all the early payments and you paid one time off enrollment fee, you might be expecting to spend up to $2,550 just for that. If you are using third-party materials, you have people like Mark Meldrum that could sell about $300 there each level, and you have up to like $2,000 if you are using blue bag material. So it depends on you. So if you look at this, the CFA can actually cost you between $3,000 to $10,000 from your level 1 to level 3. This is a rough estimate of the financial cost of it. So that's just, and that depends. Some people use different combinations. You are using prep providers. You are using, some people are going to physical tutorials and everything. But most importantly, what I've noticed about the cost is that some people incur unnecessary costs because they are trying to do what everybody is doing. So you are hearing that it is this material that is working, you are running to it. Or you are hearing that it's now this prep provider, you are running to it. Sometimes that lack of focus, you are here and there, it's actually not good. It's not good in a way that the CFA is designed in a way that I feel the CFA body is fair. They give you the learning outcomes. Really, I wrote the exam 4 times, level 1, level 2, wrote level 3 twice before I passed. Rarely would you see them ask, they can't ask anything outside that material, that candidate body of knowledge. It's never possible. In fact, the learning outcomes are a good way to start. So sometimes all these prep providers that people are running to, it helps, they help, because some people, they feel like the textbook is written in a way that is not so good and everything. They need prep providers, but jumping here and there, you can spend much more than you need, much more than you're supposed to spend just in trying to get the charter order. So please just bear that in mind. We'll review the exam structure now. And this is just for us to see, because I want us to quickly get to each level, and I want each of our speakers to speak at that particular point about their strategy, because the main focus of this is the strategy. But I think if you go on to the strategy without letting people know what is currently in vogue as relating to the CFA, we're actually doing ourselves a disservice. What you need to actually be able to write the level 1 exam is to meet the CFA program enrollment requirement, which is you have your bachelor's degree in any course. You don't have to be a first class or second class to actually be able to do that. For level 2, you can't write level 2 if you have not passed level 1, and you can't write level 3 if you have not passed level 2. That's for it. The exam format has changed. It's no longer paper-based, it's now computer-based. Level 1 and level 2 are basically multiple choice questions, so you have options. So it's no longer, it's still the same paper-based, but now it's CBT and you still have options. But level 3 now, you have an essay part, which carries slightly more weight than the multiple choice questions. So level 3 is a mixture of both essay and then multiple choice questions. But the difference between the level 2 exam and the level 1 exam is that level 1 exam, the 90 questions you will solve in the morning, they are not question 1 question 2 might not be related to question 1. So that's the idea of, you see vignette supported multiple choice questions. So why you have vignette is they might now give you a whole passage or a story, then they will now give you a set of questions in it. That's the essence of the vignette. Unlike the multiple choice questions in level 1 that are unrelated, that might not be related to each other. The time duration has also gone down. Before it used to be 3 hours. Now for level 1, the questions have reduced from 120 to 90. So it's now 2 hours, 15 minutes. And for level 2 and 3, it's lesser time now. It's no longer 6 hours. It's now 4 hours, 24 minutes. And there's a slight difference now that people need to note. In the era of CBT, before, after 4 sessions, everybody is mandated to leave the exam or take the 1 hour break and come back to write the second part. But that's not what is obtainable now. Now, after the 4th session, only for level 2 and 3. For level 1, I think we still have to take that break. It's no longer optional. But for level 2 and 3, you can choose to take the 4 hours, 24 minutes at a stretch and pass your exam. These are the dates that the exam results are released. So if you've written the exam or you are planning to write the exam, you must note that you have to wait for this period of time, 60 days, 60 working days though. I need to 60 working days before the exam is actually released. So, sorry, before the results are actually released. And this is the pass rate, which is the bone of contention of why we're actually organizing this program. Over the last almost 60 years, this has been the main pass rate this is the average pass rate for level 1, level 2, level 3. For the last 10 years, this is also the pass rate. You notice that level 2 has dropped from 46% to 45%, and level 3 has dropped from 56% to 3%. This year, we had the record lowest pass rate. Across level 1 to 3, we had an average of 33%. Level 1 was 29%. In fact, there was a level, I think, was in May of level 1, we had 25%. So in short, everything we had this year was historical low. Whether it was CBT, whether people didn't understand the structure and everything, we had historical lower pass rate. And that was one of the reasons where we actually do this. So where do CFA charter holders work? I would like Stefan and Bolaji to speak on this. This is the spread of CFA charter holders, from product managers to fintech to data scientists to portfolio managers in hedge funds to CFOs, CAOs. You can see the dispersion of CFA charter holders. Someone asked a question in the chat that what is the relevance of CFA in the, this poll was done in 2020, last year, in the private equity, in the VC field. You can see almost 8,300. And this poll didn't cover the entire CFA landscape. We have almost 400,000 or 300, over 300 charter holders by now. I think you have about 400,000 charter holders. So, but these are the major areas where you see a CFA charter holder working. You see people working in relationship managers and sales, people working in economics, in central banks and things like that. So I want Stefan to briefly talk about I know you've seen a lot of places where you've had to interact with colleagues with different things. I want you to tell us where you think our CFA charter holders do work.
Yeah, with that entrepreneur to that list, a very, very tiny dot as well. No, I think, it's, I mean, this, I don't know what else I can add. I think this chart says it all, really. It's portfolio manager. So I was a portfolio manager. So definitely, I mean, this is, I think, one of the biggest category, but also, yes, equity research analyst, private wealth, whatever you want to do within the investment industry, even, yeah, PE, VC, it's maybe not, not necessarily the most useful to have a CFA, but even then, you still have a lot of people that do have it. So, I mean, this chart says it all, right? Like pretty much all of the roles linked to investment, the CFA is going to be useful.
Balaji.
Okay, just as Stefan mentioned, the CFA curriculum itself, it's very wide. So you tend to see charter holders working in varying aspects of the financial industry. But the largest percentage you see work as research analysts and portfolio managers. But you also still see a lot working as, working in hedge funds, working in banks, just like someone like myself. So basically, with the knowledge you've acquired in the course of the program, you can actually function very well in any aspect of the financial industry where you choose to practice. So yeah, as the chart says, it's actually very, very diverse. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Hey, Peter, I want you to quickly comment on the process of you getting the Access Scholarship. For people that are interested in Access Scholarship, I also got the Access Scholarship at some point. I think for the first time I wrote level 2, I actually got the Access Scholarship. And people always think, oh, you can even, there are people that I interacted with that it was before they even wrote the exam, because I thought that you can access the scholarship until you're on the program, that you've written level 1, that's when you're able to give you. I actually had friends who actually got the Access Scholarship as a means to write their first level. May I quickly emphasize that some of the scholarships are not actually full, like Access Scholarship, it reduces your payment to, I think, $100 or $200, I'm not sure. I think $100 is what you pay. Yeah, there are some that gives you full scholarship, there are society scholarship, but how do you go about assessing the Access Scholarship then?
Okay, it's quite straightforward. So all you need to do is just these. You have to explain like your situation, like, so it's pretty much an essay on your background and your experience and why you want to do the CFA. So that whole essay now goes to your local CFA society. So they'll review it and then approve. But it's very straightforward, and I think it reduces it to around $200 or so. So yeah, I encourage everybody that can't afford it to take advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah, Paula, the women, I think they are specific, because in the investment field, there have been this clamor that the investment field, there's a lot of men representative there, and then they want to employ women, and they are giving a lot of scholarships to women and everything. And I know we have a lot of ladies on the platform, so if you can just tell us about that.
The future is female. As you can see, I'm really female on the facilitators list. There are 4 able-bodied men. So please, I'm calling on, the ladies on the platform. There's so much around diversity right now. It goes beyond even CFA, writing CFA. People are now being conscious about diversity on the board, diversity in management, ESG considerations. So I'm, calling on women out here to apply for the Women in Management Scholarship. That's the scholarship that, I pasted the link on scholarships in the chat room. You would see the requirements as to how to apply and all of that. So please, I need more women on this table.
All right, thank you for that. So that's it. So let's crack down to it and talk about each level. This overview of each level of the CFA. Currently, I think this is still accurate, the weightings for each level. So I want to start with Bolaji, then I'll go to, while I'm starting with Bolaji, then I'll go to Bitari, then Stefan, then Paula will come in last. I want you to speak to us basically on each level when you are doing, a lot of things have not changed. That's the truth. Yeah, some things has changed materially, but the CFA, even for charter holders, there are still minimum amount of readings you have to do every year to update yourself. The institute will advise you, this is the latest publication, these are things that have changed. From Bolaji Lester, how did you approach these levels? I would like you to speak more about level 1 and level 2. How did you approach it? What was your strategy, your study hours? Did you use prep provider? What unique circumstances did you, because I know you passed all the levels at first attempt. So tell us, what should people know going into this exam? Because this is a quick overview of all the levels.
Okay, thanks for reminding me I passed all levels as one attempt. Okay, so I think it's very important for candidates before even starting the exam to be sort of familiar with the various topics, on the exam, for, you have equity, you have derivative, you have fixed income. Just familiarize yourself with the topics you have on there, especially if you are coming from a non-finance background like myself. I studied engineering, by the way. So to get started, what I did was, I guess what helped me was just my grit, my determination to sort of say, okay, I'm coming from a background which is not finance related, so I really need to go the extra mile to make sure I ace all the levels at one sitting. So what I did to start with was I registered with the tutorial center, because when I just brushed through the material, I noticed, of course, I have a full-time job. I work in a bank. I noticed there is no way I would be able to cover the material coupled with my job. So I joined. I registered with the tutorial center. We have lectures weekends and Fridays after work. So that means I no longer had the weekends to study. So what I did was to make sure I stayed back at work to study at least 3 hours every day. Weekdays, as are Monday to Thursdays. I made sure I studied 3 hours every day because, of course, if you live in a city like Lagos, Nigeria, definitely there'll be traffic getting home. So you just try to maximize that time after work to study every day and try to know what is the focus for each level. Like the focus for level 1 mainly was what is being tested at level 1 is just knowledge and comprehension of the concepts covered in the material. So level 1 for me, I would say it's kind of straightforward, so it's straightforward to a large extent because the questions are just maybe what is this, calculate this and that. So it's sort of straightforward. Just ensure ensure you comprehend the material and you are good to go for level 1. Level 2 is now a different ball game because level 2 now tests the application of the knowledge you've acquired. So it's not just a surface test of knowledge, it tests the application of the knowledge you've acquired in the real world. And here you need to really make sure that you comprehend the material and how it is used in everyday life in the investment industry. So like someone said jokingly that you can compare level 1 to maybe navigating a pond, you need just with a boat, you can do that. But when it comes to level 2, that's now like you are trying to navigate through a river, you need a ship and adequate preparation to be able to do that. And one important thing to also note to tell candidates is when preparing for level 2, most especially, although it's applicable to level 1 also, irrespective of the material you are using, even if you are using third-party materials, ensure at the end of every chapter that you solve all end of chapter questions you have in the CFA Institute material, in addition to all blue box examples within that material. That would give you more clarity on all the learning outcome statements you have. And if you're able to really solve all those questions and get them correctly, and even those you miss, those you get wrongly, check through the answers and be able to now solve them, I feel you should be in a pretty good shape for the exam. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to Ebitari, I'll quickly pick up on what Bolaji spoke on. Bolaji spoke about the fact that some people use very complex. You find out that some prep providers are very complex, and it's very good because like you're over preparing. But sometimes you're so complex that you don't come to the level of the CFA because the CFA itself, there is no CFA have approved list of prep providers. I think if you go to the institute site, you will see it. But CFA themselves don't coordinate. They do not coordinate tutorials. CFA does not hold tutorials or hold classes for you. It's that candidate body of knowledge that they will provide for you, which is your textbook, that they are going to follow. They're not going to say, oh, film quiz set, very tough questions. Oh, let's go and look at Wiley to get ideas. Schweizer, please supply us some questions. CFA would not do that. They would actually use within the candidate body of knowledge. That's what they are going to focus on. So don't be so focused on to third-party prep providers that you forget that you actually have a textbook that CFA provided you, and they said this is the learning outcomes. It's important that you actually do that. So Ebitari, please also give us your idea of the strategy, because I think at the end of the day, what people miss out is strategy. There's really no strategy. It's just I'm jumping into CFA. Even if you jump into it, at least at some point you find out that you can't jump out unless you want to jump out. You now need a strategy, even if you don't have strategy coming into the program. So please give us your share from a wealth of experience.
So I feel like the Olodo here, because I wrote level 2 twice, I wrote level 3 twice as well. So like I've had that experience. So with level 2, I'll start with level 2, as Bolaji rightly mentioned, so it's about the application. Level 1 is so voluminous that you can pretty much go away with like surface level understanding of the concepts. Just be aware of the tricks that they will present to you. But level 2, you have to go in depth. You have to read in between the lines. Like you have to really understand the material. So as you rightly said, the EOCs are very important, but the CFA Institute has now caught on to the fact that a lot of students just read third-party materials and come and do EOCs. So they're now going back to the blue box and the white text examples. So you have to be well aware of that. You have to come back, solve all of that, because not every concept will be tested in the AOCs. So you have to still come back to those blue box and white text example. Just make sure you understand it. So one thing I did for level 3 was I was very religious with that blue box and white text. Like I didn't even focus on the AOCs. Blue box, white text. Like I took screenshots of it. I'll constantly just like read through, like look at it, like read the explanation, just make sure that I like understood the concept that was being tested. So that was one approach that I felt really helped me. Then for level 3 as well, again, start typing early. Like start because you're going to be typing in the exam hall, so you can't say that you're not fast with typing. So as you're studying, you're typing your answers. Try and be concise as possible. Break down your answers into like very little sentences that capture the concept that's being tested, because like you cannot be writing story for them. Like there's no time for that. Then also my last like advice would be don't major in the minor. Like what that means, across the 3 levels, you're giving weight, so you should know how you're focusing or like when you're studying and when you're taking the exam. Don't go and be spending so much. Now you need to get over 70% in like almost everything to pass. Like but with your studying strategy, like try and like allocate your time like appropriately. Like spend more time where you can get like more bang for your buck. So if it's FRA, you focus there. If it's PM for level 3, like you focus on those relevant topics there. Then on the exam day as well, don't like for level 3 AM, like that one was first time I wrote it, I was, because I love economics, like I was dwelling so much on that section that I forgot, because it just comes at the start. So yeah, I was trying to perfect what I was writing and all that. Then I now didn't have enough time to like go over the remaining sections. So that's one thing, like don't major in the minor, because that economics was now very lightly weighted. I didn't have time to focus on the heavyweights like fixed income and maybe derivatives that were not maybe they were challenging, but you can always get like some points for just maybe calculating. Yeah. So those are my 3 like strategies that I would advise anyone.
So I'm going to go to Stefana, but before I go to you, sorry, there's a mistake on this CFA level 3 chart here. The equity investment was written twice. Before I go to Stefan, there is this popular saying, say sometimes fail forward. You know, just like what Bitari said, I found out that I was trying to teach people that wrote textbooks what they wrote inside the textbook. That was part of why I failed level 3 at my first trial, because I was trying to explain so much that I was not going to the point. And I had a very simple rule when I was going to write CBT level 3 for the second attempt. I was not going to write anything more than 3-4 lines. I didn't know why that code just came out. Like it was the exam that I decided that this level 3 that I'm reattempting, whenever I'm writing, which is typing now, whatever I'm giving a response to, and I see myself exceeding 3 or 4 lines. Like it's not like I'm itemizing my point too. I'm writing an essay of 3 or 4 lines. I clear it. I know I'm not saying it works for you, but I noticed that that was what I did wrong. That was why when the man said 30 minutes to go inside the exam hall that day, I found out I was still at the middle of 13 questions I've only solved it, because I was trying to think too much about it. And I was like, oh, did this sound right? Let me put 10 lines. I was totally wrong. More especially for level 3 candidates, you really need to note that. And that's why I want Stefan to speak on the big themes, because people don't know that level 2 is everything is still tailored towards valuation. So for each of the levels, what are the big themes that the CFA is making people see at the end of the day, so that even if they are reading, they are studying, they can take out those big themes from their studying?
Yeah, but the big themes, maybe I'm not the best person to comment on, because I think it was a little bit different when I did it a few years ago. I feel like a dinosaur, to have done it like 10 years ago. But maybe let me share a few advice that I liked a lot, everything that has been said. So let me try to give other maybe angles. And I think the first angle I would say is also to find a way to make it interesting. I think that's super important, because this is such a pain, this exam, and when it's sunny outside and you're stuck inside and you have to study, you have to find a way to make it interesting. So for me, for example, it was every time I was learning about something, I was trying to see when it will be useful. So reading the Financial Times, for example, or the Wall Street Journal. Oh, okay, this is useful because I can understand this is what's going on right now in the industry. And I was also thinking, okay, how am I going to use it in the future? So trying to really focus on, okay, this is why it's useful. It's not, I was moving away from seeing it as an exam, I need to study for this boring thing and do it, but rather, okay, this is going to be useful for this, and that. So I would say the first tip is you have to find a way to make it interesting, because otherwise it's not working. And the second one is to find a way to learn it actively as well. Because for me, for example, for the first one, I started by just, reading chapter by chapter, and I realized quickly it doesn't work like this, because when I did the exam, I swear I got everything wrong, and I realized I didn't know nothing. And, I think you have to approach it a little bit more actively. So, try to, for example, then I realized that, okay, this approach doesn't work. So then I started straight doing the exercises. And when I didn't know the answer, I would go back to the material. And that meant that I approached the material in a non-linear way, non-chronological way. And, you start from chapter 3 and then, chapter 6. And I don't know, for me, at least, maybe it doesn't work for everyone, but for me, it worked a lot to have a disorganized way of learning, starting from the questions and going back to the theory, rather than doing the theory and then the question. And then the third thing that I would say that I think Tari said very well, it's also to focus really on what matters, because you have so many details. So the first time you study for it, I would say focus on what's most likely to come up for each topic, and then forget about the details. And then only the second time you go through the material, or the third time you go through the material, you try to cover the detail. But at the end of the day, the exam, they still ask always on the same topics, the most important topics for each of the themes. So if you get that right, you're also much more likely to sort of succeed. So I would say those are the 3 additional tips.
Okay, thank you, Paula. Paula, because you are actively taking the CFA now, like in terms of tutoring people, I would like you to speak not just about the teams now. I want you to speak about that big teams, because I feel like it's important, because you cannot say that at the end of the day, you must have this goal in mind, whenever you're studying level 3, that CFA is saying that you are leaving us. After this now, you must be able to manage a portfolio. That's why the equity investment is not called equity investment, it's called equity PM. Fixed income is called fixed income PM. You have alternative investment PM. So they are letting you know something there. And people miss out on things like that. They just take it up economics, equity. No, it's different at level 3. You must now start looking at yourself as a portfolio management. It's a big team for level 3. For level 2 candidates, they are talking about everything still linked towards valuation. They want you to be able to value assets. It's important. So you cannot say you have gone out of level 2 without taking out an ability to value asset properly. Level 1 is more like welcoming you. So I want you to talk about that big team. And I want you to talk about the strategy of combining work, because I noticed that a lot of people that are doing the CFA are actually working class people. How do you, I know very well that you are working while you are doing the exam. How are you able to combine things adequately?
Thank you, Caleb. And I mean, everything that every other colleague has said here is so important. Given that I currently am actively, lecturing or tutoring CFA, I would say level 1 is conceptual. You have a body of knowledge, finance, investment. They want you to know, the basic concepts. So, I mean, not to dwell on, okay, this, not to dwell on valuation or a particular concept, trying to understand how do I now compute it? How does it make sense? No, they want you to show a level of understanding of the concepts, right? And then level 2, like Bolaji said, it's really you're in a pond. It's not so, it's easy to navigate. Level 2, you're now in a river. Level 1, they were feeding you milk, but level 2, you're not eating amala. Oh, sorry, Stefan, these are like swallow, like heavy meals here in Nigeria. But you're now eating amala. They want you to be able to value assets, like Caleb has said. It's valuation. It's a lot of calculations. It's a lot of formulas. So that is where, if you're not a lover of math or numbers, you need to prep yourself, because you're going to see a lot of that. And then level 3 is more application. Now, this is not university where you read theory. Nah, you're going to manage, a portfolio. You're going to look, IPS, what's the investment portfolio management policy statement for either an individual, an institution, or just a fund. So it's more application in level 3, which is why CFA as an exam, a body of knowledge, is not abstract. It's really, okay, how do I apply everything I've learned to managing a portfolio? That's why you see a lot of the careers are within portfolio management and research, because then, you can understand a lot of things that you've learned, you can put it to use. Now, I would say CFA is also a mind exam. I always say this to my candidates. You have to mentally prepare. It's not, oh, you go through this, the books and you have to mentally prepare that what you're going to war. Like, you have to just, I'm going to war. I'm going to give it my best, train as much as I can for this war. I mean, someone once told me, you're going to read like you've never read before. And if you are very spiritual, you're going to pray like you've never prayed before. Now, after reading for 300 hours or more, you can't go into the exam hall and say, oh my God, this is the most revered exam. Am I going to fail or pass? Nah, you're going to enter there like you're a warrior. I've finished reading. I'll now come and depress myself and say, it's just paper, or it's just computer. It's question, I will read it. The question cannot be smarter than me. So I always tell people, you need to mentally prepare yourself. So that's one. Two is, as I said, you have to study. Don't focus on the minor, like Tari said. Look at the weights. There's a reason why the weights are there. There's a reason why the weights are there. I mean, you're a numbers person. So some of us might like accounting or economics, and then you dwell on it. Meanwhile, you have things like, you have things like equity investment, fixed income, that you need to, portfolio management, that you need to pay attention to. But because you find joy in calculating financial ratios and accounting seems to be your thing, you focus on it and you forget the rest. Ethics that you think that, oh, ethics, it's not right or wrong. My dear, the way we think of ethics in Nigeria is not, please, let's just disabuse your mind. It's really a dilemma situation. So you can't say, oh, ethics, I would read it maybe like 2 days to exam. No, everything is important. What I tell people in terms of using study material, you need to know thyself. Like Caleb said, there are so many study materials out there. But when you start to follow the bandwagon, you'll just be lost in the middle. So know yourself. Are you someone that's self-studies and that's it for you? Are you the one that needs class tutorial? Then sign up for class tutorial or sign up for online. You need to know thyself. You need to know how you excel in studies, because guess what? It's good to want to read CFA to know it, but you are investing your time and your money, so you want to pass the exam. So what is important at that point where you are preparing for the exam is ensuring that you know the learning outcome statement to be able to pass the exam. Now, you can take the curriculum after you pass and then dive deep and just, okay, how is this done? Yeah, but what is important for the exam is you want to pass. You don't want to waste your money, hard-earned Naira. I mean, for the Nigerians here. So again, you have to know thyself. I know myself. I'm a class person. When I go to class, it's like I'm reading number 1. And then that's first reading. After class, if I'm so tired, when I'm so tired, I go for things that are interesting to me. So I'm a numbers person. I'll do more numbers when I'm tired. So after work, I do more numbers courses. But things like economics, ethics, I need to mentally prepare that, okay, today I'm reading. So from morning, I'm fresh up. I start with things that I find difficult. But then just to manage my time, because I'm working, after work, I'm exhausted. But I can still assimilate the numbers. I can still assimilate the formulas. I can get on with those. So I focus on those. Like Stefan, I'm not a chapter 1, study 1, study 2. No, let's just scatter everything and read everything and ensure that, we get everything on board. So my strategy might not work for you. You must know yourself. To thyself be true. Don't follow bandwagon. Are you, is it self-study for you? If it's not, if you don't have time and you think classes will do it for you, by all means, go for physical class or pay for online tutorial, whatever works for you to ensure that you achieve your goals. That's so, you need to mentally prepare, you need to know yourself and what works for you in terms of study plan. And of course, that ties to strategy. So if you know yourself, you can know what strategy works for you. Again, don't focus on the things that are interesting to you. So if you are good in numbers, you focus on numbers courses and you leave out you leave out the theoretical side of things or the pro side of things. It's not every single topic, every single module is important. I would say in terms of studying, you can go through things that interest you when you're a bit fatigued or tired, so that you can be motivated to read. And then when you're fresh up, it's a fresh day, Saturday or something, you look through those ones that you think are difficult, your mind is fresh and you can do that. What else do I want to say? I guess I said if there are any questions.
All right.
That's really
so,
much.
we're almost done with the question. I think maybe this is me. I think the exam is structured such that you can wing level 1 some way, somehow. You can do what everybody is doing. They are reading these because the CFA does not, they are introducing you to finance. They are welcoming you. You can understand there is a financial market, understand there is different asset called fixed income. There's particular asset class called equity. You can wing it. When it gets to level 2, you can't wing it again. So that's why at the end of the day, by level 3, you would have known yourself up to a level like this actually works for you. Because like some people here actually did tutorials for level 1, but I found out that no matter how much you teach me, the level of depth you go into in level 1 in class, I would still have to go back home and go and understand it on my own terms. So going into level 2 and 3, I didn't use any prep provider. Sorry, I didn't go to any class. I only used the candidate body of knowledge, and I used one particular prep provider, which I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to. It's not paid advert. It might not work for you. But I just used that. Both the prep provider and my personal study was what I did because I know myself. So maybe level 1, I did tutorials because I was coming from a relatively engineering background and I'm new to finance. I believe the finance guys will help me really understand some things. After that, I understood that I need to actually know myself now. I can actually understand this thing on my own. So if you don't know yourself by level 2, more especially level 2 and level 3 candidates, you're actually doing yourself a disservice because you have a higher percentage, higher chance, a higher probability of passing the exam if you have discovered what works for you going into level 2 and 3. Because at the level of level 3 and 3, it's no longer just I've read the test, I've read the whole candidate body of knowledge. Many people read the candidate body of knowledge. If you're looking at the number of people that read it, we shouldn't be having this abysmal pass rate of 26%. Level 3 went to 39% this year. Historically, level 3 are always, I think the first level 3, they even did 94% passed. Now 39% is not supposed to be heard of. So it's a lot of people not knowing themselves and what really works for them. And as they said, you start jittering if you hear that this person is at this level and you're not there. Understand your own process. If you need to prepare 6 months, if it takes you 6 months to prepare for an exam, do it. Don't say that, oh, this guy said, I prepared for level 2 within 65 days. It still beats my mind. I don't know how I did it. But if I didn't tell you that I've actually failed level 2 before doing it again, you will say, how did you do within 65 days? I still had to read everything again, but I was starting from a place of knowledge now. So it's important to actually know yourself. And that's one thing. At the end of the day, I came out of the exam thinking I understand myself better. Sometimes I used to joke with my wife. I said, if I studied half as I studied for CFA in my first degree, I said, maybe I'll probably be part of the top of the class because that's one of the things the CFA program will do for you. Quickly now, the other part of this equity investment is the second part is actually supposed to be asset allocation. And that's one thing they emphasize there. And I think a lot of candidates fall short of that. You find something that interests you. Some people is economics, some people is financial issue. You will dwell on it too much. Like it's your go-to question, but you will be unfair. And that's one thing CFA try to do. Don't be unfair to other courses because you actually have a course that you like. Now, let me put perspective to this. I'm not saying that don't dwell on portfolio management in level 3 that has 35%. That would be foolish. You need to actually dwell on that. But don't now stay on economics because you feel you studied economics your first degree, you love economics question, or you are the type that likes essay, you like stories, you now start reading ethics as if it's the rest of yours. I'm on ethics. No, be at least fair to all the different topics because they call them topics. I don't know how they call. I feel they should be calling them subjects or courses because topics, calling them topics make them sound they are small things. They sometimes get up 3,000 pages. So in a way, don't be so unfair to the courses that they say, I love this financial ratio. So every time you're always solving financial ratio, as if CFA is only going to ask you financial ratios question. It's not like that. So that's what I want to actually point out. I want to really ask Bolaji, then a bit Tari. I've heard about the 300 hours rule. Was it true? Did you use only 300 hours to prepare? Because how long is 300 hours? That's just like 24 hours divided by 30. Probably 3 weeks at most. That means in 3 weeks, you'll be able to write each level. How true is it 300 hours rule in your own preparation? A bit Tari, then I will ask Bolaji.
That 200 hours rule is a myth. Like, I don't know anybody in my circle that has used 200 hours to prepare for this exam and pass. So that's the thing. Like me, I didn't use 200 hours. I used maybe let's say like 50 to 100% more than this 300 hours. So probably I'll use like 600 hours for a particular level. But I wasn't keeping track, but because I studied longer hours, like by weekends, I used to study as well. After work, before work, I studied like very long hours. So 200 hours was not good for me. Like, I'm not the smartest person, so it takes me longer to like assimilate what to do. Take somebody maybe like 1 hour to do. So yeah, I used more time, and I try to allocate my time wisely between like everything, like work and studying as well.
Bolaji, the 300 hours rule.
It's hilarious to a large extent. Well, I know there could be some folks that could put that off, but for me, I didn't really break it down into hours. But I know I started preparing actively for the exams, like say like 2 months or 2.5 months to the exam, and I started really preparing actively for that. And one thing I would point out again to candidates is the important part that revision plays in preparing for exam. You could have, for instance, let's hypothetically preparing for the exam over a span of 4 months. What you read first when you're approaching the exam might not be so fresh in your mind anymore. So it's just very important to always do that revision before the exam, and also focus on the mock provided by CFA Institute, not by third-party providers as you approach the exam. So with that, I believe irrespective of the number of hours you've spent, the most important thing is you want to come out tops in the exam at the end of the day. Yeah.
All right. Stefan, I want to ask you, how important is practice questions? How important are practice questions and then mock exams towards the exam, more especially? Some candidates feel like they just read that, some people feel like if they practice all they've read, they would have poured it down in the practice question. So they want it to be fresh going to the exam. So they will just go and pour it there. They don't want to pour it on practice questions or mock exams. What's your advice in that area?
Yeah, so I loved what Paula said. You really have to know yourself. And for example, for me, I have ADHD, which means that I cannot stay concentrated for a long time, for example, in a class. So for me, for example, my company was actually paying for classes, and I went once, but it was like 4-hour classes. And after 30 minutes, I couldn't pay attention. So for example, for me personally, the only way it works is by practice. So I started literally from day one with the practice question. And then once again, I went from the practice question to the theory. And that's the way I approached it. And I love to do, for example, in my personal case, I love to do questions. That's how I learn, by doing rather than by just reading. So for me, practice question was really the most important thing of my preparation. And I know it was a little bit different, but for example, I've only used the Schweizer books. And for me, it worked okay. So just by going through these questions, I think it's important though to do the official one, especially for the final exam, to do the real exam when you're ready. But also, I think it's really important to also start as early as possible to do the exam. So I would really say, even within your first 2-3 weeks of preparation, do one exam to just understand also, what they ask, what's the format, etc. Because to do the exam will help you, refine the learning strategy, etc. But once again, I think, there's no one size fits all. I think Paula said it super well. You have to know yourself and then go with what works for you. And I remember some of my colleagues, they were only going to the classes and taking notes, and for them, it worked as well. So I think, the most important thing is knowing exactly how you work, and you back to the failure point. If you fail, then use that as a learning experience. Oh, why did I fail? Was it because I didn't practice enough? Was it because I was just overwhelmed by stress? And that's why also I think psychological preparation is super important, or was it for another reason? So, use failures to kind of feed back into, knowing yourself, I would say.
All right. Paul, I want to ask you, the LOSs, that's the learning outcomes. What I personally strongly feel like focusing on the LOS, understanding the LOS, it's a way to study because it kind of puts your study in context. Because sometimes you can read a whole textbook of a CFA, a whole chapter, and you feel like, what have you even read now? What are the major points? I feel like the LOS, and I've always noticed that the CFA is always keen. They are biased towards the LOS because they set them there for a reason. So what is the importance of understanding the LOS in actually passing the CFA?
So very important, LOS, learning outcome statements. Those are the learning objectives. Like if you read the whole curriculum and you go back to the learning objectives and you haven't achieved the objectives, sorry, please go back again and read. Because your questions will be set based on the LOSs. So it's like pointers as to what you need to focus on for each study reading. So for each study or each reading, you have end of chapter questions, which also helps you, and examples like Bolaji mentioned, the blue box examples, and then the end of chapter reading questions. Those are very, very important. After reading a particular study session, go to the end of chapter questions, ensure that you go through the examples, the blue boxes, and then go back to the LOS to ask yourself, this is the objective that this study session is supposed to achieve for you. Like, this is what you need to come out knowing. Do I know them? If you don't know them, then you need to go back. I also just want to stress the fact that practice questions are very, very important. I would say that, all other practice questions, QBank that you have out there by other providers do not really tell you how, CFA actually really sets their questions. So you need to use all the resources that CFA has given you. On your candidate resource page, you have a lot of questions, like a lot of questions per module, so you have lots of questions, you have mock. Please ensure that you exhaust all of those questions because they reinforce the concepts or the things that you've learned or you've read. So they are very, very important, I would say. LOSs are so important as well. So you must ensure that you know them.
All right. Thank you for that, Paula. Ebichai, I wanted to ask you a question before we take I don't know if we have the chat question. We're almost rounding up. The level 3 exam involves essay. And I'm going to ask you and Stefan for a reason. Stefan, you can say you've not written the exam of recent, but it's still the same essay question format. What do you think changed in you approaching the level 3 exam? Because you're coming from level 2 when you only do multiple choice question. What do you think changed in your strategy of preparing that you feel like is a key highlight for anybody writing the level 3 exam? Knowing that the same format still maintained, they've not changed the level 3 to entirely MCQs. It's still the same essay question. And what needs to change for anyone that is thinking of taking the level 3 or has registered for the level 3 and is the level 2 candidate?
Awesome questions. So what I would say is there's a reason why portfolio management is weighted so heavily in level 3. And as a portfolio manager, like your job is to make recommendations and like at the end of the day, make decisions. So as you are reading, as you are answering those questions on the exam day, you should be geared towards making a decision. Like 2 currencies are here. What do you do? Like which is going to be devalued? What do you do? Like you need to be able to understand the situation, and like what concept is being tested and make a recommendation. So at the end of the day, like that is your ultimate objective in level 3. So just being able to put yourself in that position of being a portfolio manager, being able to understand the situation that they are painting in the vignette, or sorry, what's the text called? Yeah, just being able to understand that, bring out the relevant concepts from your mind and make a recommendation. So I think that's one very important thing that I would advise anybody that's going into level 3 to know. Then also, like if you're reading the material, don't read in silos. Like there are different concepts that are applicable to different topics. Maybe you see interpolation in fixed income, you see it in another section again, maybe private wealth. Don't read in silos, bring it out, like know that, okay, this thing, I'm seeing it in 2 places. So once you bring it out, like, you know the differences and you know how to apply it, like if it's tested in maybe private world or in another section. So yeah, like there are some concepts that you see in multiple places. Don't ignore it. Don't just think that, oh, I've seen it somewhere before. Don't do that. Just always note what you've seen before, bring it out, highlight it, know the difference, and be able to differentiate on the exam day. So yeah, those are like some key tips for level 3.
Stefan?
Yeah, no, I thought those were all fantastic points, to be honest. Not much to add. Maybe just, like I said earlier, if you always find a way to make it interesting, I think it really helps, because level 3 is really more, practical. So the more you kind of understand, and I think it's an exercise. So for me, it really started with level 1 and trying to see, okay, I read something. Okay, when is that going to be useful for? Oh, in this situation. Then in level 3, it's much more practical. So I think this approach generally helps. And then for writing, I think the most important thing, if there is one thing you cannot do is master writing in like 3 days. I think this is impossible. So it's more about, every day doing it a little bit, getting a little bit of feedback on your writing. And I think especially for the essay part, it's all about doing little by little, but every day, constantly, and trying to start as early as possible, because I think especially writing is probably one of the things that take the most time. You cannot become a master writer in 2-3 days.
Absolutely. Sorry, just to lend to what Stefan said, you need to practice, and the way you do that is solve essay questions. They're buzzwords. When you're supposed to say overbought, make sure you're saying overbought. When you're saying oversold, you are not explaining that the markets are sold more than. No, use the buzzwords. You don't have to write 5-6 sentences. Once you use the buzzwords and you have done 1 or 2 sentences, you do your calculation. I think that's what I learned the second time I wrote level 3. I had to solve a lot of essay questions early enough. I learned the buzzwords, because once you use the buzzwords, you don't have to write 2 paragraphs, and that time we had boxes in the paper. You can't write beyond the box, so you have to just ensure you learn the buzzwords, practice questions, and then you'll be good.
If you are filling up the paper in level 3, you are doing something wrong. Like I gave myself that automatically.
I tell you,
I filling up the papers. You are using some words like, for instance, you are writing. For instance, they're asking what is the investment objective, or for instance, just a typical, not revealing questions now. Let's say they're asking you to write an IPS of a particular portfolio, and you're not looking at the return objective, the risk objective. You just keep dancing around the tune. You can dance around the tune for 10 lines. If they didn't see anything that talks about return objective, they didn't see anything that talks about the risk objective of the portfolio, and they didn't see how you have the portfolio meet the portfolio goal, it's nothing. For level 2, you said, oh, you understand economics, you understand fixed income, you just understand, you understand all these words. And CFA has a way of making you feel full. You've read so many things. You've read about credit default swaps, you've read all these things, and you start taking them. You don't see how everything are used in valuation. Because at the end of the day, when you're able to value an asset, that's when you will decide whether to put it in your portfolio or not, when you're in level 3. And level 1, they're introducing you to all sort of things. So seeing all these things are important in making all these decisions. Thank you so much. We've spent a lot of our time and we have very few minutes. I want to give room for 2 or 3 questions, if we can have it. If you want to ask any question, okay, I think I have, someone has collated the question already. I'm just going to quickly see. So what is the process of the Access Scholarship? Is online, but you can chat me. I'm going to put a mail if you need more further detail about the Access Scholarship. I would be happy to actually provide you sourcing feedback. Would you recommend studying the CFA Institute official material or prepare provided materials? I'm a detailed person. It's more of a personality thing, and I think we've been kind of dancing around it since. Like this thing, if you notice something about all our speakers, they all have unique experiences. And that's one thing. You can kind of batch some of their experiences together and say, okay, maybe Stefan and Ebita kind of have the same kind of experience, but it's still unique to them. So I won't say study CFA, but the bottom line is don't leave out anything. Like if you make it CFA material plus, or there are cases of people that don't actually use the material. Actually, I've heard of someone that did level 1 to level 3, passed everything at first attempt and never opened the material. It's possible. I'm not ruling it out. So it's just you understanding yourself. The next question, someone asked, Stefan, I'm going to ask you because you did MSc Finance. You even went to, you did it at Imperial. So it said MSc Finance versus CFA, which is more preferable to get into investment banking?
I think it really depends. I don't have a kind of clear answer. I think it depends on the once again, yeah, it really depends. Some of them only want to hire people with an MSc background, maybe not for investment banking, but more generally for the investment industry. I think a lot of them want a master degree. I think for investment banking, maybe a little bit less, because you can go to do the summer internships when you're in a bachelor. And even if you don't have a master, you can get hired the next year. I would say generally probably, and I mean, to be honest, I think it's good to have both. Unfortunately, I mean, if you really want to differentiate yourself, it's almost a requirement to have both. But yeah, once again, I think it depends. It depends the special situation. If you already have a bit of experience, then I think it's better to go via the CFA. If you've just done your undergrad, might consider, I mean, I think it's probably a good idea to consider doing a master degree. And then what I think the big advantage of the master degree is for the networking and the support that you get even after you do your master. I mean, that's something for me, for example, I find it super useful. Like right now, for example, that I still have this huge network from Imperial that I can contact, that I can connect with all of the events, etc. I think what the CFA doesn't do is provide you with this sort of huge network that you can really tap. And that's, I think, just for the networking aspect of it, I think the master might be slightly ahead. But once again, it really depends on the individual circumstances.
Okay, Paul, I want to ask you about a question here. That if you have contribution, it's fine. Someone asked, can we get a PowerPoint presentation? We'll try and see how we can make that work after the program to see how we can. I've thought about it too, but I still don't know how I'm going to get it across to everyone, but I will think about that and see how we can get it across. You can comment on this. Then I want you to also add this question. Say, at what point does one join the CFA society? And I mean, the person is talking about the local society. Now I want to assume.
Yes. As a candidate member, you can, so you're writing CFA level 1 or level 2, you can join as a candidate member. You can join as a charter. You know, you finished completed all your exams, your charter holder, you can join. You can join as an affiliate member, meaning you have so much experience in the investment industry. You can't sit down and be writing CFA exams anymore, but your experience is valuable and, you know, we would love you in our network. I slightly disagree with Stefan that CFA doesn't provide you with that network, because I know what CFA network has done for me. I am able to reach out to top, you know, senior guys with CFA just by saying, I'm a charter holder. They're like, oh, wow, you are? Okay, let's get into a room. So again, it depends, MSc Finance or, you know, CFA. It depends on the particular situation or circumstance, or even the recruiter in question, you know, whatever they hold highly or hold dear might just be what plays there. What was the second question? Sorry.
I think you've answered that. When do you join the CFA society? It varies.
Yeah.
Actually, provided you are some local societies, I know as far back as when I was in level 2, praying for level 2, CFA society in Nigeria was sending me messages then that I can register as a student member. I'm officially part of CFA Society UK, that's where I joined. But before you get chartered, you will be part of a society, and that's where you are based. You are part of the global society, then you have a local affiliation. Ebitari, I want you to quickly attempt this question. What do you think is responsible for the very low pass rate this year? And I'm asking because you passed this year. So what do you think is responsible? I know it's dicey, it's neither here or there, but what do you think?
That question, like the more times the CFA Institute tries to explain their rationale for it, like the more I get confused. Like they recently put up another explanation like last week or so, and it threw me off balance again. But I think if I had to say, if I had to attribute it to a particular cause, it would be that just more people are prepared these days. And I think they're saying that they're not making the exam harder. Maybe it's just because there are fewer questions that are being tested. So like each question carries more marks, and what they are looking for in terms of like what's the minimum that any like qualified candidates should be able to answer, like for each level. So that really is something that is now, I'm trying to find a good way to put this now. So because there are fewer questions across each levels, there's now like each question carries more weight. And then if you don't get those easy questions, it becomes like a significant penalty on your overall performance in the exam hall. So that's the thing. Like, so you need to like be more prepared, know that, okay, there are less questions, but they carry more marks. And so you need to like put in more effort into those questions. Yeah. But there's really no hard and fast rule. Like, it's all speculation on why the pass rates have been going down this year. But yeah, and we're observing. Maybe if we get more clarity, we'll share on that.
Yeah, I think if we just use the finance litmus test, before you must be able to backtest the data before you can affirm that it has meaning going into the future. This is the first year that the CFA is fully implementing the CBT. It's easy to say that probably it's the CBT crossover and everything. So there is no sufficient data to make very informed judgments now on what is causing this. I know that from COVID to whether people are to the lesser questions to the new technology and everything, those are several factors. But you need, as in finance, if you are trying to backtest a particular data, sometimes you have to reiterate over a period of time, look at it 5 years back, look at it 10 years back before you can make predictions on what is actually, whatever we're making now as likely reasons for it being that low, it's actually we are still more like speculating. It's not affirmed. But the most important, the bedrock is you can pass. You can pass. I've seen it. You can pass. The last I did my, and I thank God for that experience. I did my level 3 first with paper based before I wrote CBT. And for some reason, I was like, okay, I finished some questions, some section I finished ahead of time. Yeah, and that's what I've noticed. Sometimes when you studied very well, you study with the LOS in focus and something like that. You start saying, the exam was not difficult. You're not actually trying to say that, undermine the fact that it's just because you've prepared, you've put in the effort. That was why it seemed as if you were answering the questions. I want to ask Bolaji and Stefan this critically. The last question, he said, some charter holders now find it difficult to get to investment banking. The excuse is no experience. How do you deal with that? And I'm asking Bolaji because I know you have to also cross over. You were in a department before you eventually move into trading department within First Bank. So I'm asking now, then Stefan said, what some charter holders now are finding it difficult to get into investment banking. Some of the excuses, there is no experience. How do you deal with that? Bolaji, then Stefan, then I think we're ready to round up.
Yeah, so
okay,
are you? Oh, sorry.
Bolaji, please
go for Stefan.
Okay. Stefan, you can go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So the question is how the CFA can help for investment banking? I'm not sure I understood the question. Sorry, Caleb.
He said some charter holders, some charter holders now find it difficult to get into investment banking. The excuse is no experience. That's what probably the excuses they are giving them. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, I mean, I think so. Are we talking just about investment banking or just about also investment management, sales and trading, and everything?
I think the person was specific about investment banking, but you might quickly spread it to why they might want to look at investment management instead of sitting on just, I want to get to an investment bank like Goodman or JP.
Yeah, because I think the answer is a bit different. So for example, for investment banking specifically, I think networking has really become more and more important. And I mean, I really see it now, like you need to network with someone at the bank, even for your CV to get, to the HR lady or man that will look after the application. So I think for IBD particularly, it's absolutely key that you network. It's becoming very, very difficult to even get noticed if you haven't networked. Now, if you look at more sales and trading, investment management, etc., I think you need to have your own practical experience. So trading on the side, or sharing your own research reports, things like that. But really being proactive and showing that you're not just waiting for the opportunity. You create the opportunity yourself. And really be proactive in having your own sort of project. So I think it's a little bit different because for IBD the process is very structured, right? For sales and trading and for investment management or for hedge funds, etc., it's a little bit more unstructured. So I would say you have to adapt the approach to who's interviewing you.
All right, Balaji, probably you are still trying to tell them the same question. probably why not? Why is it still investment banking? Why not look at other areas? Why are people still finding it that difficult to break into investment banking after their charter holders?
Okay, so generally, anyways, not just investment banking, even when it comes to maybe sales, trading, investments, management, generally, of course, after you are done with your CFA, that could come up with recruiters that, okay, you don't have the relevant experience and all that. So what I did in my own case anyways was I'm a trader at the moment. I trade for fixed income. So what I did after when I was done in the course of the CFA was to do some sort of trading FX on my own by the side. So when I now sort of wanted to switch to trading proper, of course, that question came up that fine, you are done with your CFA, but do you have any trading experience? I was able to chip that in, even though I was doing that at the very retail, on a retail scale, but at least that experience sort of helped, and at least it helped me to get notice and at the end of the day actually land that role. So for charter holders and our candidates looking to make that switch, I would advise to go the extra mile and sort of on your own get that experience at your own level, which of course you could now take up and on a larger scale apply at the corporate level. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. We've gone beyond the time we planned, but I'm just going to quickly launch a poll now for you to please complete. I've projected a poll now. It's just the feedback poll for as we round up. I just want everybody on the who are currently logged on in terms of the participants to please take the poll, and we can see the result of the poll. Can you see the poll? Okay. I think, okay, some people are already responding to the questions on the polls. As we round up, someone asked, any question you want us to give our speakers in case you want to have specific questions for them that we can address, you can just mail it to the email address that you can see on this projection. I've projected the screen again. Regularly programs@calebforward.com. You should be able to mail me, and I would get across to our speakers to talk to them to get your feedback. I want to thank everybody for being part of this program today. It's been interactive, it's been interesting. I appreciate the speakers. I brought them from different parts of the world, from North America to Africa to Europe. We have everybody present here. Thank you. Many of you are my mentors and friends, and I really appreciate you coming around to come and at least give back to people, because this is the only way we can give back. Thank you, Bolaji. Thank you, Ibitari. Thank you, Paula. And thank you, Stefan. Thank you for honoring the invite. Thank you for everyone that joined the program. I hope you've benefited, gained one or two things, and you can, if you are already on the program, you can go back and recalibrate. Ask yourself, what are you doing wrong? Or what should you improve on? Or what is working for you that you can further enhance on this program? Part of the poll, I've asked on the poll that you should give us topics or areas relating to either CFA or investment management that you like us to discuss with you in future. So I welcome that feedback. But generally, thank you so much for this time. Thank you to everyone that participated. We really appreciate you. And I want to also thank Kanayo, my co-host. I don't know whether he's camera shy. He was not speaking, but it's fine. Thank you, Kanayo, for helping coordinate this session. I really appreciate you. I appreciate the effort. We've been on this for several weeks trying to put this together. And I hope that a lot of us have benefited from this. And then you can also go ahead and help someone when you get your own charter, you pass a particular level. I didn't wait till I passed level 3 because before I was helping people that were writing level 1. Neither did I wait till I passed level 2 before I was even helping people that would go through level 2. So it's all about people trying to help others. Thank you for your time today, and I wish you a good evening. People that are still afternoon, I wish you a good afternoon, and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done, Caleb.
Thank you, everyone. And enjoy the rest of the day.
Night, thank you, boss.
Yeah, you can.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice efforts. It was very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.